Good morning, everyone. I'm Miss Rose, and welcome to Mathematics, Science, and Technology. Our topic for today is Essentials of Environmental Science. Our learning objectives. At the end of the chapter, the student can first describe an environment. Second, define ecology. List and discuss the basic ecological laws. List and discuss the basic biological principles and describe an ecosystem and its components. So what is environment? Environment is all on the physical, chemical, and biological factor external to a person and all the related behaviors. So it includes behavior not related to environment as well as the behavior related to the social and cultural environment and genetics. On the other hand, environment can be defined as the sum of total of all living and non-living elements and their effects that influence the human life. So that is the environment. The next one is the ecology. Under the ecology, it is the study of relationships between the living organisms excluding humans and their physical environment. It seeks to understand the vital connections between the plants and animals and the world around them. So that is ecology. Next is the basic ecological laws. So our basic ecological laws is the law of balance. Under the law of balance, the organisms in the biospheres affect each other and therefore provides equilibrium to a nature. Equilibrium become balance to a nature. Next is the law of sensitivity. Under the law of sensitivity, some organisms are so sensitive to human activity. So they die and deteriorate at slightest danger. So under the sensitivity, humans are the big influence to these laws. Next is the law of susceptibility or the law of susceptibility. This is the nature has a way of deflecting and controlling itself. Next is the law of universality. So under the law of universality, the laws of nature apply in any ecosystem, big or small, land or water, polar or tropical. And the next is the law of temporality. So the biotic components have definite natures. Nothing is permanent and lives forever. So that is the law of temporality. And next is subsidiary laws in ecology. So first, everything is connected to everything else. It indicates how ecosystems are complex and interconnected. An ecosystem can lose species and undergo significant transformation without collapsing. So that is, everything is connected to everything else. So second is, everything must go somewhere. It states that the basic law of thermodynamics or the basic law of physics, same as that. In nature, there is no final ways, matter and energy are preserved. And the waste produced in one ecological process is recycled. So the next one is the nature knows best. So under the nature knows best, the impact of this law is manifested in the damage of the environment caused by the man-made technology intended to improve nature. The next one is nothing comes from nothing. So that is the fourth informal law of ecology. Expresses the fact that the exploitation of nature always carries an ecological cost. From the strict ecological standpoint, the human beings are consumers more than they are producers. The second law of thermodynamics, or the law of physics, tells us that every process of using energy, human beings use up but do not destroy energy. So the last one is there is strength and stability in the unity of differences. So species diversity provides strength and stability in ecosystem. Diversity also provides a longer food chain. Those are forest is more privileged than the monoculture plantation. That is the subsidiary laws in ecology. The next one is the core messages and environmental science. First is the law of balance. So the nature has an own and process to maintain itself. So under the ecology system, are capable of self-maintenance and self-regulation. The law of balance, the human activity should be consistent with the laws processing in the nature. That is the law of balance. Next one is diversity and stability. So diversity is essential. It promotes stability. So the greater the diversity of the species of plants and animals in the ecosystem, the greater its stability. So the next one is interdependence. So everything is related to everything else. Same as of the basic ecological laws. The next one is change. So everything's change. Some change enhance the nature state of environment, other degraded. So walang constant. There's no constant, everything is changed. The next one is pollution. Pollution is the undesirable accumulation of the substance released, resulting to diminished utility of resources. So pollutants are produced by nature and man-made processes. The next one is finiteness of resources. So the most of the Earth's resources are finite. They must therefore be used prudently and wisely. So most resources are subject to depletion and degrade of both. Plants and animals pollution are renewable resources. And the last is stewardship. So humans are part of nature. They are not master, or we are not the master, but we are the steward on earth. So that is the core messages in environmental science. The next is the ecosystem. So ecosystem is the structural and functional unit of ecology, where the living organisms interact with each other and surrounding environment. So it is also the basic unit or field of scientific study of nature. According to this discipline, an ecosystem is a physical defined environment. So that is ecology. So there are two types of ecology. First is terrestrial ecosystem. So are exclusively land-based ecosystem. There are different types of terrestrial ecosystem. First is forest ecosystem. So that consists of several plants, animals, microorganisms that live in coordination with the abiotic factor of the environment. The next one is the grassland ecosystem. That is the vegetation dominated by grasses and herbs. The next is tundra ecosystem. So that is the devoid trees and are found in cold climates, or where rainfall is scarce. And the last is this desert ecosystem. And under the desert ecosystem, that is the found out of the world, there are regions of very little rainfall. So the next types of ecosystem is aquatic. From the word aquatic is water. So our ecosystem present a body of water. So under the aquatic, there are two types of aquatic. First is the freshwater ecosystem. The freshwater ecosystem is an aquatic ecosystem. Includes the lake, ponds, rivers, streams, and wetlands. They have no salt content in contrast with the marine ecosystem. So the next is marine ecosystem. So it includes seas, oceans. They have more substantial salt content in greater diversity in comparison to the freshwater ecosystem. That is under the aquatic ecosystem. Next is structures of ecosystem. There are two structures. First is biotype, or biotop, or abiotic. A particular physical environment with specific physical characteristic as the climate, temperature, humidity, concentration of the nutrients, or pH. So next is biocenosis, or biotic. A set of living organisms such as animals, plants, or microorganisms that are in constant interaction are therefore in the situation of interdependence. Next is the structure of ecosystem highlighting the biotic and abiotic factor. So ecosystem, the abiotic factor and biotic factor. Under the biotic factor, first is the producer. So that includes the autotrophs. Such as plants. The next is consumers. So under the consumers, that is heterotrophs. Producer is autotrophs. Consumers is heterotrophs. And decomposer or saprotrophs. Saprotrophs. So, under the consumers, the primary consumers, that is herbivores, herbs, and plants. The next consumers is the secondary or primary herbivores, meats. And the last one is tertiary, that is secondary carnivores. So that is the structures of ecosystem. Next one is the functions of ecosystem. The functions of ecosystem first is it regulates the essential ecological process, support life system, and render stability. The next one is it is also responsible for recycling of nutrients between biotic and abiotic components. Next, it maintains the balance among the various trophic levels in the ecosystem. It cycles the minerals to the biosphere, and last one, the abiotic components help the synthesis of the organic components that involves to exchange energy. That is the main function of ecosystem. What is the important ecological concept? There are three important ecological concepts. First is the food chain. So the sun is the ultimate source of energy on Earth. So it provides energy required for all plants' life. So also, the plants utilize this energy for the process of photosynthesis. So which is used to synthesize their food. So the next one is ecological pyramids. Under the ecological pyramid, an ecological pyramid is the graphical presentation of a number of energy and biomass of the successive trophic level of ecosystem. Biomass is from the decay plants, animals na magiging, in the process, magiging siyang energy. That is biomass. The next is food web or food web. It is a nature and interconnected food chain. It comprises all the food chain within the single ecosystem. It helps the understanding that plants lay foundation of all food chain. So that is the main important ecological concept. So this is the example of food chain. And the plants, yan ang primary food of grasshopper, and the grasshopper is the primary food of the rats. And under the rats, that is one of the primary food of the snake, and the eagles and cycle, that is the food chain. So that is the example. And your first activity, chapter 6. And the chapter 6 exercises in your books. First, answer the multiple choice. Copy and answer in the page 62. Next one is the answer accordingly, page 63. So that is your activity. Thank you and God bless.